So I have pressed the live button. Welcome everyone who is joining us live right now. This is Sohaib Hasan from Dubai, and today with me is Jana all the way from Berlin. And today's live broadcast is all about jobs in Germany. You have been asking a lot of questions since past few months, especially in the past month, that how we can get job opportunities in Germany. The fact that I also run the biggest group on LinkedIn when it comes to jobs in Germany, we are now nearly 80,000 members. So if you have not joined that group, maybe you can join that group as well after this live broadcast. And in this session, we are literally going to discuss everything about getting a job in Germany, how you can source more opportunities, how you can best present yourself, how you can better connect with the recruiters, how you can approach recruiters, finding networking events, work culture about when it comes to working in Germany, literally everything about Germany. So there are 9 different topics that we are going to discuss in today's live broadcast, and I expect you to stay with us during this whole live broadcast, and we're going to take your questions as well. Jana, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Sohaib.
Great. We see a great engagement when we uploaded the ad on LinkedIn. There are like nearly, the last time I think I saw was nearly 60,000 views within 18 hours. So I foresee like there are a lot of people they're looking forward to moving to Europe and especially Germany. So I think this is going to be a great session for today's, especially when it comes to jobs in Germany's topic. So this will be great. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Jana. She is the co-founder and CEO of Mitra. She has a wealth of 10 years of experience. Her core expertise lies in the human resources. She has worked in different countries. She has lived in different parts of the world, in India, in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in the US, and of course in Germany as well. She has been to Dubai a couple of times. She has worked with big brands, which include Siemens, Volkswagen, and she also worked as a consultant for different German corporates. So she has a great experience when it comes to the HR and especially recruitment side. So we're going to see the inside scoop when it comes to even for the evaluation of the profiles. So let's begin, Jana. Actually, I have created the script of the questions. So we'll go like one by one and discuss everything in detail, and we'd love to hear your insights. So let's begin about the German market. So just give us like an outlook about the German market. How does it look right now? What are the opportunities available? And just a brief overview about the German market.
Yes, thanks, Sohaib. I'm really happy to join in here today and give you some insights on the German job market. So hi to everyone who's joining us right now. I think Germany's job market is really interesting for international professionals from across the globe because we have a high need of people over here. So when you look at the German job market, we have studies saying that we are expecting a big skill gap in the next years. So actually, I think we are expecting a skill gap of 5 million people until 2025. So a really big need. Of course, there has been some impact by Corona. I think we'll talk about that later as well. But in general, since our society has a slightly higher age, we will face a lack of people in the near future. And I think that's what makes it really interesting to apply for jobs here. Of course, we don't have this need in every kind of professional domain. I think that's also something we're going to talk a bit more about in detail later on. So we do have a specific need in IT professions, for instance, in metalwork, electronics, engineering, healthcare. So these are the domains which are really, really interesting for people to apply to. So these are kind of shortage professions we're looking at right now. So if you belong to these kind of professions, I think Germany is a really good market to look at.
And I think it's a great news for everyone who belongs to this, or people, let's say, or professionals who belong to these professions. So this is a good news for them that they can easily move to Germany. And, although there are other countries, they have opened their borders for immigrations and highly skilled immigrant visas. But I think Germany will definitely be a great choice. So if I would ask you why someone would really need to think to move to Germany, because I have lived in Germany, and Germans, they are very focused, they are very structured, punctual, and someone who's coming from a different region, different part of the world, with different cultural norms. So how do you see when it comes to like those top factors? What are those top factors that one needs to consider moving to Germany?
Yeah, maybe I should be asking you this question since you were living here. No, but let me try to answer this. Actually, I do ask this question to all the people I get in my trainings. For instance, I'm training a lot of people who are coming here and joining universities or starting a new job from abroad. And I think one of the main reasons is, of course, career opportunities. I think that's what's making it really, really interesting. As I pointed out, we have a high need of people. What's also making it really interesting is that I think we do have a lot of employee benefits. So it's a very employee-friendly country. If you look at the legal framework, limited working hours, very good social security, health insurance for everyone, which also means you have higher deductions. But still, I think working in Germany and living in Germany means having a very high quality of life and, just a very good level of safety and stability, and it also gives you access to the European Union. Yeah, so these are just some factors, I think. Culture-wise, I think we'll talk about that as well. It may be challenging.
What about the present situation right now, especially in this pandemic? Do we do we still see jobs being posted on the job portals, and are there still opportunities available? Because we are going to dig deep during this session at a later time about CV, recruiters, recruitment, job applications, job description, each and everything. So just to get an idea about the current market situation, are there opportunities and have employers started hiring already?
Yeah, so to be honest, of course, Corona has also affected the job market here, but there are companies who are still hiring. So when the crisis started here in March, I think a lot of companies just stopped everything. I think that's something you probably saw everywhere across the globe. But what I've seen, especially in the last weeks, is that companies have kind of adjusted to the whole setup and also digitized a lot of their recruitment processes. So I think there are also a lot of new opportunities coming up. Of course, it actually depends on which field you're looking at. So if you're working in the tourism domain, now may not be a good time to, move to Germany and apply for jobs. But if you're in IT and engineering and healthcare, we still have a very high need. It may just take a bit longer than usual to get through the processes, also to get through the visa process, because things are not handled the usual way right now. Of course, everything's a bit exceptional, but yes, there are still a lot of opportunities.
Okay, this is great. And please, viewers, put in the comments below where are you joining us from, because we would love to know, so that when we are going to share the information regarding the CV, recruiters, networking, each and everything about job description, portals and everything. So maybe we can tailor our approach towards you. So if more people are watching outside Germany, so maybe we can share information in that regards as well. So put in the comments where are you watching us live from. And also please put in the comments in case you have any specific question. Although I have those 9 categories that I have listed for today's live broadcast, it will pretty much answer your questions, but still please keep commenting your questions, and we get back to your questions after the live broadcast, I think, after we're finished, and then maybe we can take a look at the questions which are still left unanswered, and then we can address them as well. So let's take a quick look where people have joined us from, and then we begin with our today's session. And the first topic is going to be all about the top industries in Germany that you have to focus, and what are the top professions in Germany that you can foresee to work for in those industries. So if it is watching from India, we have people from Ghana, India, from Dubai. Oops. Comments are popping like one by one. So after this from India. So how long did you live in India, by the way?
I lived in India for about a year, and before that also for... So there have always been times in between where I moved back to Germany. So in total, I would say about a year, 1.5 years. First time I went to India was 10 years ago. So ever since then, I return every year.
Do you still go to
the first year, I won't go back, unfortunately.
Do you still visit India, or?
Yes, every year.
And what's your, if I would ask you, what's your prime motivation to go to India? Is it food? Is it culture? Is it the place, the weather, the people? What do you like about
I think I think it's a mix of everything. I really like the people because I think it's just a very open, colorful, friendly kind of environment. That's what I love about going to India. I love the food as well. I really am a foodie, and since I'm a vegetarian, I think India is a very good place for me to travel to. I've struggled everywhere else in terms of food, but India has always been a happy place for me to travel. Yeah, so that's just one of the reasons. I think one other aspect is that I think India is highly, let's say, underestimated in Germany. Unfortunately, there are very few people who have knowledge of India as an economy, for instance. So that's also a kind of motivator for me to
Okay.
increase
Interesting.
know-how.
I
Yeah.
also went to visit India one time because a lot of my friends they are based out in India. So I go to visit India so and meet my friends there. All right. So we have people mostly outside Germany, from India, Malaysia, Vietnam, South Africa. With people from Africa, from the Gulf country. We also have from Arab world is there. So really mix, which is great. All right. So let's move on to our next topic, which is the top industries and professions in Germany. So very basic. So what are the top industries and what are the professions in demand in Germany right now?
So when you look at top industries, let's stick with the top five by income. That would definitely be pharma, chemicals, automotive. What else? Yeah, medical tech, and then also consumer goods. Like, for instance, I don't know if you were aware of it, but Adidas, for instance, is a German company. So a lot of people are wearing their shoes, and no one is aware of the fact that we have these kind of companies as well. Yeah, so I would say these are the top five industries, but I always encourage people to look at other domains as well, because I think the German automotive brands are well known everywhere, but this also means that they do have a lot of applicants. And we have a really strong backbone of medium-sized companies and hidden champions, which have a lot to offer. Yeah.
Do you suggest those who are working, for example, in a specific industry, and during this pandemic, do you suggest them to switch between industries in Germany? Is it a good practice? Like here in the UAE, people they can easily switch between industries. So I think because they get good opportunities, they get good salaries, they get promotions, so they switch between industries. But their role remains the same. But I have seen Germans; they're really loyal to their jobs, so they would spend like 10 years, 20 years with one company, or at least within the industry. So how do you suggest the job applicants, like when they come to Germany, should they stick to their one job for 5 years and within one industry, or if they are allowed to switch between industries also?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting observation. I think here in Germany, we tend to stick with one job much longer, just as you pointed out. So I would recommend people to stay in their job right now. But I mean, this is also not applicable for everyone. So if you're in a certain domain, like as I mentioned, IT, where there's a high need, it's fine to switch jobs, because I think there are a lot of new things coming up right now, because everything has to be digitalized. But in general, here we have this kind of rule where we say that, okay, you should stay in a job for minimum 2 years, rather 3 years. The longer, the better. If you stay too long, then your window of opportunity may also be gone. So because it's not that easy to switch between industries over here. So, but 2 to 3 years is good. That's what I usually recommend. Yeah.
And how do you see like working for the startup companies? Because I think you are right now in Berlin, and Berlin is known to be the innovation hub. And I think there are a lot of job opportunities for people who are moving from different parts of the world. And anyway, we're going to talk about the German language as well. Is it necessary? And how and to what level you should speak German language when you are applying for jobs in Germany. But when it comes to work opportunities with the startups, so how do you, is it like a good career progression, like you're moving to a great country, the economy is strong. So rather than you focus on those big brands, Siemens, Volkswagen, and Mercedes, BMW, but if you get an opportunity to work for a startup company, so do you think would that be a good approach as well in terms of learning, in terms of getting your feet down on the ground in the German market?
I think working for a startup here is a really great opportunity. You just mentioned German language skills. So if you get the opportunity to work for a startup, you may get the chance to start without a high level of German proficiency, right? Probably the only domain where you have this kind of chance. So I think working for a startup here is really great also because you get a lot of responsibility at a very early stage. So I did this myself. I worked for corporates, and then I decided that I think I would rather prefer a kind of work environment where I can take over more responsibility and develop faster. So I decided to start working for a small company before starting my own business. And for me, this has been a really, really great step, because I got the opportunity to learn a lot at a very, very early stage. And that's something I think you can only do in a startup, or maybe a medium-sized company will also give you this chance. I can highly recommend that.
Okay, great. Because there was one job was posted today in the Jobs in Germany LinkedIn group, and I was surprised that employer, they are saying, even if you don't speak the German language, we will teach you. And that job is for IT specialists. So if you're a member in my Jobs in Germany group, and if you're not, you can join that group after this live broadcast. So, and they mentioned like IT specialist is required, but even if you don't speak German, but we will help you teach. We will help you speak the German language. So I think, unfortunately, like German language is really, really required when it comes to, working in Germany. Anyway, we'll come to that part as well. So let's move on to the next thing, which is about the job portals. So like in Dubai, we have list of job portals. So really would like to know from you, what are those authentic, legit job portals, which as an applicant or people who are moving to Germany and those who are watching us right now from Germany, they can go ahead, they can make their profiles. And then of course, we're going to discuss a little bit on the job portals, how to maximize and what mistakes we should not do while using the job portals in Germany.
So I think when it comes to job portals, what you have to know is that in Germany, we have a lot of specialized job portals. We like to be very process oriented. So there is a job portal for every kind of profession. So that's one way to approach it. But of course, we have big job portals like Stepstone, for instance, which are also helpful. And groups like your LinkedIn group, which are amazing to share job posts. What we have done is we have assembled a list of a full list of job portals that may be of interest to you. And that's available on our website. I don't know, should I share my screen and show it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. That would be great. Please go ahead.
Yeah, let me
So we are going to show you
that, and then we can take a look at one example.
I did not receive the invite for the share screen, so maybe can you do it? Oh, okay, now I got it.
Exactly. Our website. Is it visible now?
Yes, now it's visible.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So this is our Mitra website. When you enter our website, usually you will reach our about site, and you can click on professionals, and that'll lead you to a section where you find a lot of career advice and a great article on job portals in Germany. So you can just click here on the professionals button and go to job portals. Unfortunately, it's a bit slow right now. That's always the case when you try to show stuff. So you can click on career advice, and that'll lead you to a list of articles we have published, where you can find everything about CVs and cover letter and so on. And right, the first article you can see is a list of job portals.
All right.
If that's
Shall I open it from my end, maybe? Oh, I think there was
Should I
distortion
stop
with the
sharing
network. Um, Maybe I can,
then?
let me
Is
try
that
it from my end.
better?
Let me try.
Because maybe,
Yes,
yeah.
let me just quickly try it. Share screen. So that we show you exactly how you can see the list of those all job portals. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to go to professionals. This is the website, by the way,
So I
mitra-germany.com.
stopped sharing now.
And then
Yeah.
professionals, then go in career advice. And then there you will find how you can find job offers online. And there are some other related articles which you can take a look. So if we click here,
Professionals, exactly. Yeah.
all right. So these are
Exactly. You'll
right.
also find this list when you.
So viewers, this is the list here: general platforms for internships and working students
Yeah,
for
you will
job.
find a full list at the lower end. So you'll find a lot of advice on where to go. Yeah.
Wow, this is great. Okay, so here you can take a look for the oops, where is, you can take a look at the job portals and you can just download them, or copy paste these portals in your browsers and save them in case you're looking out for job opportunities in Germany. So these portals. So the next thing is about the common mistakes, which I think everybody, they would love to know, because they're moving to a different country, different market. The norms will be different. So what are the common mistakes that we as an applicant, we should avoid? And what would be the best way to use a portal in terms of maybe filling the information?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing over here is to focus on quality and not quantity. I think that's really the most important thing here. Like when you apply for jobs, recruiters expect to have a very, very individual application, which is adapted to the content of the job ad you're looking at.
Right.
And that's what I think is most relevant. So when you look at job ads, when you open Stepstone, for instance, I did that today before our session, or when you open the job ad, which was published in Jobs in Germany today, IT scientists or whatever they were looking for, you will see a detailed description of the things they need. And that's where you have to do a detailed matching with your profile. So I think the most common mistake here is that people just apply for a mass of jobs without really looking at the details. And here in Germany, we love to pay attention to details. So make sure that you adapt your application to the job ad you're applying to, even if this means that you're applying to less jobs. Make sure that the jobs you apply to actually match your profile. And then also take a look at application standards. I think we will talk about CVs as well, because they tend to look a bit different over here, and cover letters as well. So really make sure to familiarize yourself with that. And we do this in our webinars. You can join them for free. We give a very detailed explanation on how CVs and cover letters should look, or check out our YouTube channel. So this is really important over here, because recruiters will pay attention to that. So okay. I think, yeah, these are just some of the things to mention.
Okay. What about an important question I received on LinkedIn? A connection of mine, he sent me a special message that please ask about when it comes to the salary. So I know in Germany, like the salaries, they are standardized. I mean, from government, I think there is like standards, or like within industry. So you see the standards. So when it comes to the job portal, so do you advise for all these job applicants that they should follow the same standards which are given by the relevant authorities or by those companies who have conducted these surveys, or you should ask for less, so that employer, they will think, oh, because he or she is asking for less salary, so we should reach out to that candidate, or we should how should we approach the salary thing in the job portal?
Yeah, so I think salaries are always a really important topic. So here you have to differentiate a bit between the kind of industry or company size you're looking at. So if you're applying to a big company, a corporate, or even a medium-sized company, I think you can stick with industry standards.
Okay.
That's the most helpful thing to do. If you're applying to a small company, then you may want to lower your expectations a bit, but it
All right.
depends. If you have a profile which is very, highly needed, if you have a very specific skill, which kind of skill set which only very few people have, then of course you can ask for a high salary. You don't have to decrease your expectations or lower your expectations. But if you apply to a small company, especially in Berlin, here cost of living is also a bit lower than in Munich, for instance. And that's just what you have to keep in mind. So in that case, it's probably good to ask for a slightly lower kind of salary. So it depends a bit on your profile.
Okay.
Yeah, but in general, I think the kind of information you find is quite helpful, and it's always a matter of negotiation, right? So.
Right. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's move on to our next segment or category, which is benefit of speaking a German language. I know this is a lot of people, they have been waiting for this. Please stay with us because we're going to talk, after this, we're going to talk about the CV templates, cover letters, and then the recruiters we have also for networking, the job descriptions, working in Germany and different practices also. So really informative session today. So when it comes to speaking the German language, so people who are applying from their home countries, they see in every single job description, you should be able to speak fluent German. You should be able to speak German language at B2 level. So I have two questions. Question number one is that if someone who doesn't speak even a single word of German, but he has those necessary skills and he has worked in that domain, or he comes from that background with the similar qualification that the employer is asking, do you recommend that person to still submit the application? Does it really make a big difference, even if he or she does not speak German? And on the other side, someone who is in Germany, let's say, or even in their home countries, but at least they speak the basic German, which might show an interest to the employer that this person has an interest in speaking or learning the German language. So how do employers, like when they write the job descriptions, do they really mean everything when they write, like German is necessary? All right, it is necessary. No excuses. There's no way out. If you don't speak German language, you should not apply. So what's your take on this?
In Germany, we mean everything we write. I think that's the good part and the bad part about it, because you sometimes get very direct feedback, which may seem impolite, but yeah, that's a matter of culture. So if we write in the job ad that you need some German to do this job, unfortunately, it usually means that, yes, you need to speak some German. So if they say minimum B1, this will usually mean that you are filtered out if you don't speak B1. Maybe you're lucky if you speak A2. You could probably still make it through the process because there's always a certain percentage. It depends on, the choice of people they have. But I often see people applying for jobs which were published in German, but they still apply in English language. And I can tell you that in most of the cases, these applications are filtered out, unfortunately, because here you have to be aware that a lot of the daily work still happens in German. And I know that that's a kind of barrier. I know it's a high investment to learn German, but the minute you start learning German, like if you reach A2 or B1, I guarantee you that there are many, many more job opportunities opening up. So it's really, really worth it to do so. But if the job ad says that you have to speak some German, I think that's what they will want to see. Sometimes it's also just sufficient to show you motivation. I mean, you don't have to be perfectly fluent. As I said, there's a lack of people here, and employers are investing in language classes, for instance, just like the one you pointed out earlier in your LinkedIn group. So I think, they are also motivated to help people, but you also have to prove your motivation. That's
exactly
most important.
Yes. I hope you have got the answer. If it's written in the job description, the German language is required, or you should speak German at B2 level, or you should be fluent in German language, It means that you should speak to that level, or you should speak fluent German. Otherwise, there is no need to even apply for that position. However, I think for the startup companies, Jana, if we talk about the startup companies, especially in Berlin and the big cities in Germany like Frankfurt and Munich, where we see like more startups. So I have seen myself also, like within the startup companies, there are more opportunities for people, even if they don't speak like the German language, but startup companies, they would invite you. Okay, so you begin as a software developer or IT engineer, so you can begin with us, but you have to continue learning. So German language still remains like the mandatory thing. Like you should not just think that, okay, I have got the job, okay, I don't need to learn German language. So German language still be a part of your job. So when it comes to people who don't speak German language, so do you suggest like they can focus on English, let's say English jobs only, or companies like US companies or English companies who are in Germany, like their focus should be towards only applying in those companies or in those startups, just because they fear that they cannot learn a new language maybe at this age, even if they are in their mid 40s or late 30s, or just because they think that they cannot learn German language and it sounds so hard to them and they would not take initiative. So do you suggest them, okay, then they should only focus on startups or English companies where they might find it hard, but still they might crack an opportunity?
I think it's a good approach to focus on startups and maybe English spoken kind of environment. But I know that learning German can be a bit of a hassle, but I would still encourage people to try and learn. And because, as I said, you don't have to be perfect at speaking it. And even if you are above 40, I've seen people picking up German. I mean, it's I think it's a matter of really showing your motivation. So even if you just make it to A1 or A2, it's already helpful for your job search. So I would just love to encourage people to try.
Right.
And still, I mean, when you look for jobs without speaking German, you may also find opportunities in other sectors, because we have a lot of multinational companies, right? So there are, especially if you're in IT, there will probably still be options even in other sectors apart from US companies and startups. So when you use Stepstone, for instance, you can even filter for English spoken, like English jobs where you can English language.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
there is one website. Yes, there is one website. It's the name of that website is Try Town Germany. I used to be there, so it's trytowngermany.com. And there are also, like, you can find English jobs there on that portal. It's like more like working, living, studying in Germany website. It has a mix of everything. So and also, like, people, they are selling on that website as well. So a person is vacating a home and they are like, okay, my bed is on sale. Okay, I'm selling my sofa at this price. So it's a really a socializing site as well. Try Town Germany. Maybe you might want to take a look at it. There are a few interesting questions. We'll get back to your questions after we have finished the total 9 topics. But I want to take one question here quickly, just to address this, because it is regarding studying in Germany, and I just want to answer so that it will help you as well. Do universities in Germany require German language?
So it depends a bit on the university you apply for, but in general, yes, universities will require a proof of German language. It varies, like the level they need varies a bit. Sometimes it's A2, sometimes it's B1, sometimes it's even just A1. But in most of the cases, yes, they do. You will find student programs or study programs which are taught entirely in English language, though. That's possible. But still, usually to get the visa, it depends a bit on where you're from, you will still have to have a proof of German language.
Right.
But by the way, tuition is free of charge, so it's still attractive.
And also from my personal experience, because I did my master's from Germany, so German language at that time was not required, was not part of the application process. But now you would find, as Jana said, you would find in majority of the universities, they would be asking you to at least speak A1 or A2 level of German language. So it's pretty easy. You can get it like in 2 or 3 months, this level. These are the very basics. So if you have it, so I think you can easily secure admission to top universities in Germany. So why to waste time, and why to even waste the prospects and the opportunities? So learn German language if you really wish to move to Germany. All right, so let's move on to our next topic, which is about the CV cover letter for jobs in Germany. Literally, I mean, everything about like, are there specific templates followed in Germany when it comes to the CV, or what are the different CV components? How a recruiter they evaluate the CV? How we can best present, let's say, ourselves, and the importance of cover letter in Germany. Do we really need to write a cover letter even if it is not asked in the job application, or recruiter is not asking for the cover letters? Should we still submit it with our resume?
Yeah, so I think CVs and cover letters are really something you have to put some work in. I also have a great example of what a CV should look like. I'm just not sure if I try sharing my screen, it may crash again.
Go ahead. Let's try it.
Okay, let's try. Let's see. And I'll show you an example of what a CV could look like, should look like. That may be of help for you.
I think it is low again.
Let me check.
Let's try in the meantime.
So, started sharing now. Is it visible?
Yes, we can see it.
Is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's see if my screen is loading. Yes?
Yeah.
Is it visible right now? Cool. So first of all, let me start with CV and cover letter. So here you point out is that here we have three main parts. You can see it?
Or maybe I should pull this up from my screen. We can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay. So can you email this to me in the meantime?
Yeah, that would probably be better.
Okay. So in the meantime, Jana is going to send me the email, and then I will share
to you. Am I audible right now?
Yes, you are audible. Yes, you are. And in the meantime, let me go back to your Ahmed, what about IT jobs? Do you need German language? Yes, Ahmed, even for the IT job, you would need to speak the German language. And if you go to my jobs in Germany group, there are tons and tons of IT jobs. Employers, they are posting, recruiters, you can connect with them as well. And especially for the IT engineers, I did make a post. Software engineers, IT engineers, network engineers, developers, programmers, they are very, very good in demand in Germany. And in jobs in Germany group, again, I'm mentioning because I see it every day, because I am approving those posts. So I see there are opportunities available in Germany for IT, software developers, programmers. You just need to join this group, please. There are so many opportunities for you there. And sometimes it is asked, sometimes it is not asked, but in majority, in most cases, you would find the employer they are asking for you to speak the German language. And German language, I speak German language, it's not difficult. You just need to take a course, just take like 2 or 3 months course, at least learn the basics to show an interest, and then you can build your conversation, you can build your profile from there. And there are some employers who would also give you the option that you can learn the German language once you are there, or once you are part of that company. So oftentimes they do have their programs, just like the universities they have. All right, so we have Khalid who's saying nice, Rahul, good help. All right. Christina saying, would be a recorded version of this event. Yes, so this event or this webinar, this live broadcast is recorded. Right now we are live, but you can watch it on my LinkedIn profile, and also this will be available on the YouTube channel of Mitra. We're going to download this live broadcast, and then we're going to upload it on the YouTube channel of Mitra. Plus also I'll upload it on my YouTube channel as well. You already sent it, Jana?
Yes, I did. send it.
Okay, I received it. Yes,
Did
I
you
got it.
receive it? So it should
Yes.
be page 21. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
In the meantime, maybe let me talk a bit about the cover letter, since that
Okay.
can be answered, I think, without looking at the example. Cover letters are really important in Germany, and I think it's a very German phenomena that we require a really detailed cover letter. So usually that's like 1 to 2 pages of fully written text, so no bullet points. And the contents employers are looking at are very specific. So they require you to write a text on, your motivation to work in this specific job for this specific company. That's what they want. And that's why it's sometimes a bit of an effort. That's why I said focus on quality, because a good cover letter can open doors for you. And I think there are some great examples. I've even done a YouTube video on that where I'm going through a detailed example of what a cover letter should look like and how you can structure it. So we don't have to deep dive into this in today's session. But just to point that out, it's a fully written kind of letter, and the CV is usually a kind of chronological overview of what you've done so far. So no fully written text. And hopefully you can look at an example. Yeah.
Shall I share now?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Can you see it?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
So thank you for sharing. So I hope it's visible for everyone right now. So this is just a general example. So no content in the CV itself, but here we also require the cover letter and CV to be matching. So it's also a bit about design, not just the letter and the CV, which don't match each other. So I think this is a great example where you can see a kind of design of what it could look like. And what you can see here is that this cover letter has 1 page. Of showcasing your motivation, a clear reference to the job ad, and then next to this you have a CV, usually including a photo. I think that's very relevant over here. And then what we don't have in CVs over here, and I know this is being used in India and US and in a lot of other countries, is we don't use a professional kind of summary in our CV. So that will save you space. I think in India, you can often find this kind of paragraph where people, describe themselves. That's what you do in the cover letter. So save this kind of space and rather give a more detailed overview on your qualifications. That's really important. And a CV should also never be longer than 2 pages. So this one here is even just 1 page long.
Okay.
Just to point out.
One question here, because I cannot see my screen right now, so I'm just looking at mobile. How about the picture? A picture is required in Germany on a CV, or we should avoid using our pictures, especially when it comes to, let's say, females, the foreign applicants and women who are moving to Germany. So if you can share your thoughts about using picture on a CV.
Yeah, so there have been a lot of heated debates about the whole picture topic. So every recruiter you talk to will probably give you a different answer depending on which sector they are in. From my experience, a photo is not mandatory. You don't have to use one, but most of the applicants still use a picture. So I usually recommend using one, but if you use a picture, it should be a professional one. So often I see people using a kind of, photo which was taken sometime in a holiday or somewhere, and then they just cut it. So then I would rather avoid using it. So if you use a photo, it should be a professional one, but it can be helpful because it adds a kind of, it gives a bit of a personal touch to the application, but it's not mandatory. Yeah.
What kind of personal information we should avoid putting on a CV when we are applying for jobs in Germany?
Yeah. So there's some, let's say, information about your background, which you can leave out. Like very often I see people mentioning their marital status, also sometimes family background and all that kind of stuff. So that's not necessary. You can mention your marital status if you want to, but it's not mandatory over here because here we really try to respect privacy laws. So your employer will also not be allowed to ask you questions about, whether you have children or if you're married and all this kind of stuff, although it matters if you're relocating, right? So that's something you can leave out. Then avoid a kind of professional summary, because that's what your cover letter is used for. And then just make it really, really crisp. Avoid fully written text. Use bullet points. Use maximum 3 to 5 bullet points, never more than that. So I think that's important. Yeah.
Exactly. So this was my question, because on a CV we don't see here the executive summary or professional summary or objective summary. So okay, so you have mentioned because the cover letter is accompanying the CV, and we have to explain everything in the cover letter, and so we're not going to use the executive summary section on the CV. People, they are appreciating a lot. As I see the comments, they are also asking, can we get a template of this format, or like how they can, if they have to get a copy of it, or how they can reach out to you maybe for some help?
Yeah. So this design I used here is a design I downloaded from a platform. I think the link is even mentioned here, but even easier for you would be to just check out my YouTube video on CVs. Then we also have an article on CVs where you get information on where to find templates. But what I usually recommend is Google for CV templates, or take a look at my video and then just build your own design. It can be a very, very lean design. You don't have to pay for a download. Right. And then if you want to get your CV checked, that's something you can book on our Mitra website. So we do review CVs. We don't write them for you. That's something you have to do, but we can give you a lot of feedback on how to improve your application. So if that's something you're interested in. Yeah.
Shall I move on further, or?
Yes, I think.
Okay. Shall I go to the next page, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so just another example of CVs. I think, can you move to one page further even? Just one more thing I wanted to point out.
Okay, this one?
Yeah, the one by Niha. So this CV doesn't have the most beautiful design, but I think what I want to point out is here you can see an example of a CV which has two pages, right? And I think most of you may already have some experience, you may be a bit more senior. So I know people sometimes struggle with, fitting everything into 2 pages can be a big hassle. And what I would recommend you is, that's also something we've done here, is to just mention selected in brackets, for instance. That's a good trick you can use to shorten your professional information. So just mention selected information. You don't have to give details on every job you have ever done. So that's a good approach if you have a more senior profile. And then if you have a very junior profile, you can add information on your education background. That's also what I often advise people. So here, if you look at the education section on the right page, on the second page, on the upper part, you will see that this person has, mentioned some of the classes she has attended. So she's probably, applying for an IT job, trying to land an IT job over here. And as I mentioned, the details, the criteria you find in the job ad are relevant. But if you have not worked in this domain yet, a good way to, kind of cover this is to just point out that, hey, I have attended a university class on this. So that's a way to add value to your profile, just to point out a few things.
I think this is really great. And now I will go back actually to the same people that I met in Germany way back, and the way, so to all the viewers now, you see how the education, they have taken advantage of even the education, and how they have put all these keywords and how they have explained in the CV. So I think it's a great way, rather than you expand only on your experience and put all those jobs and duties and responsibilities only. So you really can tell them like how effective your education was and what actually you learned in your whole education program. So I think this is a great way not only to put the keywords, but also to highlight like what did you actually study within your course or within your education. So I'm sure this is very, very helpful for the viewers right now.
And maybe just to add one thing, because I think people tend to forget that sometimes. I often see this when I review applications or when I, select applicants. People often forget to mention their additional qualifications, like programming skills or language skills or whatever kind of qualifications you have. to mention them separately. And that's a big hassle for a recruiter, because I usually have a few minutes to screen a CV. And if I hire, someone for an IT position, before looking at everything else, I look at the person's programming skills. And if I cannot find a separate list of them, it's a big hassle for me to find out if you're actually qualified. So just make sure that you have a separate section mentioning your language skills and the kind of tools you have worked with. That's really, really helpful. Saves a lot of time for the recruiter. Yeah.
Shall I go one page up, or shall I close it now?
I think you can close it now. So if you want, if people need more information on this, I think we will answer questions anyways. And as I said, I have a very detailed YouTube video on this. So, and if you still have questions, then just drop me an email or a LinkedIn message, and I'm happy to answer that.
I will stop looking at my mobile now, because the screen was full and I was not able to see you and the comments. All right. I hope you are benefiting out of this session. Let's move on to our next topic, which is connecting, approaching, and meeting recruiters. So how we can connect with the German recruiters, how we can find them, and what's the best way to reach out to them, because someone who is moving from India to Germany, from Malaysia, from Pakistan, from Dubai, and we don't know them, we don't know the culture, we don't know what words do we need to use, like even addressing. In German, we address with the second name, with like dear Mr. and your last name or the second name. So what's the best way to reach out to recruiters in Germany and finding them?
So I think first of all, the first thing you should always do is to keep your online profile up to date. I think that's probably what all of you are doing anyway, since you're using LinkedIn. We do have a platform called Xing, which is a German platform, which targets Germany, Switzerland, and Austria specifically. And it's a kind of German equivalent to LinkedIn. So you may want to look into that. That's especially, I think, interesting if you already speak German a bit, because the companies active on this platform are probably the more traditional ones. But I recently looked at the job ads being published on LinkedIn and Xing, and you can see that when it comes to the German market, a lot of recruiters are active on Xing and not only on LinkedIn. So this may be a good way. Just check out the platform. It's relevant for certain professional groups. Then another way, I think here in Germany, it's always about the added value you bring. So if you are a specialist in your domain, try attending conferences, try sharing articles, engage in LinkedIn discussions. So I think here what's best is, not just to do a direct approach. That's what I get very often. Don't just approach people directly and say, yeah, I'm looking for a job, can you help me? It's better if you bring some added value. So share your know-how in the domain you're in, and then try building contacts through this kind of specialization you have. That's I would say a very useful approach. And then of course we do have a lot of job fairs taking place right now. Now that we have the whole Corona crisis happening, I think a lot of things have been taken online as well. So it's probably something people can make use of. So you can check out Eventbrite, for instance. I think a lot of companies are doing meetups, like we do that as well, where you can get to know people and sign up for sessions. Then also when you check out career portals or job portals, you will usually find information on job fairs taking place. So for instance, we are participating in an HR fair next week, where I think there will be a lot of employers participating. So yeah, everything's going online right now. So it's a good time to build connections from abroad. Yeah.
And to be honest with you and to all the viewers, this website, Xing.com, is very, very effective. And if you are looking for jobs in Germany and you want to connect with the German recruiters, this site is absolutely phenomenal. And one more thing that I want to mention here is that on Xing.com, you will find there's a tab for events. And in that events tab, I think mostly like the events are in German language, but still I think it's a great opportunity for you to maybe learn German, or at least be in the room or be in the crowd just to get an understanding how they are presenting the information. You get the opportunity to connect with the people. You get to see what topics are hot in discussion right now. Plus, there are some events which are totally in English as well. So don't miss the opportunity taking a look at Zing.com, which Jana has mentioned. Like, this is LinkedIn in Germany. So it is very, very actively used in Germany. And there's other website is eventbrite.com. I think we can find events happening in Germany also on Eventbrite, where we can find and reach out to the recruiters as well. Which I think is also a good site.
You can also check out Absolventa, for instance, and others. Okay. So yeah, many platforms. I've also done a YouTube video on LinkedIn versus Sing, if that's of help. You can check it out.
Another question here is regarding, for example, do the German people, like, they have this kind of thing, someone they have never met, they have never communicated with, and all of a sudden, for example, for us, it's very open. We're like, okay, so we received 2,000 connection requests. We're like, okay, we connect with everyone. We are more social. We are more open. We're more let's see what happens after getting connected. So we don't see the other side before connecting. But I know Germans, they're very structured. They're very focused. They need to know the reason behind, like, sending a connection invite, or like maybe a personalized invite might work rather than just sending a connection invite. So do you think, like, people, they should not reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn, but they should rather take other opportunities, like where they can have access to them in person rather than just sending them the connection invite? But if they get the opportunity, like as you rightly mentioned, like, look for job fairs. So if you see, like, Siemens is coming on one of the job fair in Berlin, and you have access or you have the ticket to go to the job fair, so rather you send the invite, which may not be accepted or may be accepted, we don't know. But going to the job fair, you have a real one-on-one conversation, and then maybe you can get connected with that person on LinkedIn. So how do you advise in this regard?
Yeah, I think that's a very good recommendation. So I think approaching people personally on an event when we get back to normal after Corona is always the best thing to do, because approaching people online can sometimes be challenging. So as you just pointed out, here people always think twice. So they will question, why is this person approaching me, and so on. And then also when you send a message to a recruiter, like, often I see people sending messages saying, yeah, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me? Do you have an opening in your company? And I love connecting with people, so feel free to send me requests. I'm always happy to connect with everyone, but that's probably not the standard way here in Germany. So here, when you approach a recruiter, they will expect you to, be very clear about what kind of job you're looking at, which kind of profile do you want to apply for. So they expect you to do the work and then approach them with a very clear idea on their mind. So that's why I think what you pointed out totally makes sense. It's much better to connect with people in person if you have the chance to do so, or to connect with people online and networking events, because people who have something with recruitment mentioned on their LinkedIn profile will probably get a lot of requests. So you never know if this is the right person to talk to.
I think the best way is also to join those events, as I mentioned. I think it's a great way for you to connect with the recruiters. If there is an online event which is happening, because you are already a part of that community, you are part of that webinar, so you're more likely to extend your connection or like expanding your network from there. Just a quick question here. Subhashini, CV should be in German language or English language. So this is like for people who are moving to Germany, although they don't. So it can have, let's say, two questions for you now.
Yeah.
Person who is moving to Germany, he or she does not speak German language. Do you think they should make a German CV just to pass the applicant tracking system, or just to land at the recruiter's table? And if someone who speaks the German language, so do you recommend, rather than writing in English, they should write in German language?
Yeah, so I think if you do not speak German, it does not make sense to create a German CV, because that would create expectations, right? So if you speak English only, I think it's good to apply in English. If you speak German, it can be very, very helpful to create a CV in German. But what you have to keep in mind is that I said earlier that a cover letter and a CV are kind of set, right? You should never look at them separately. So if you hand in a German CV, there has to be a German cover letter. If you hand an English cover letter and a German CV, and I know the cover letter can be really challenging in German because it's a fully written text and not just bullet points. If you send one in German and one in English, very confusing for the recruiter. So you have to stick with one language. So, but if you do speak German, I would highly recommend handing in an application in German, because, as I said earlier, this will help you a lot. It will increase your visibility, and I can tell you that you will get more interviews, definitely. So it's worth it. But if you do so, get it proofread. Like, that's also one of the services we offer. And but I'm not just saying this because we do this. Just sometimes I get profiles where people just use Google Translator, and that's visible for a native speaker. So it doesn't give a very, leave a very good impression. So if you do so, maybe you have a friend who speaks German language, just make sure that you get it proofread. But it's really worth it to make this effort. And an application. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. I think you have explained it very well. Let's move on to our next thing, which is the job descriptions. So people in Germany, they would, let's say, they would apply for every single job opportunity. And the importance of reading the job description, how important it is to go through each and every single line. As we have already discussed that in the job description, if the employer has written something or they have mentioned the essential criteria, so they really mean that this is the essential criteria. If you don't fulfill it, you will not pass the initial evaluation. And I think you have been part of the recruitment process. You have worked with big brands, Siemens, Volkswagen, and other top corporates in Germany. So while you were doing the recruitment, did you also did the same thing, like, okay, the job description is on one side and CV is on the other side? So they really have to go like a match, in a 100% match, and then you would shortlist the profile. So really would like to know more on the importance of job descriptions and reading the job descriptions before sending the application.
Yeah, so job descriptions are very important. So it's really worth it reading them, because we pay a lot of attention to them. There's a lot of effort being put into, the criteria that are listed, for instance, the qualifications you need. And yes, when I do recruitment for companies, I do have the job ad here and the application here, and I do a kind of matchmaking. So that's what happens in the recruitment process. So there's either a person doing this, or sometimes you even have an automatic kind of pre-screening, right? Where people are just filtered out based on the qualifications they have. And I would say you don't have to meet 100%, because a job ad is also sometimes a bit of a wish list by the employer. But 70% or the more the better should actually be there. So, and then for me, there are also hard facts and soft facts. So some things which are non-negotiable in a kind of profile. So if they expect you to have experience in the domain you'll be working in, then yeah, you have to have some experience, but you may not have to have 3 years, maybe 2.5 years are sufficient. So yeah, it doesn't have to be 100%, but you still have to, pay attention to the job ad. So it doesn't make sense to, send out like one-click applications. I know it's possible on Indeed, and I know that recruiters do filter out these applications. So yeah, just avoid that.
I think the biggest setback for the international experts or international expats or people who are living in Germany and they don't speak German language, and if in the job description the German language is asked, I think this is the only setback, because otherwise the qualification, maybe they more or less match with the qualification which the employer is asking, the required job duties which they already have performed in their previous experiences. So I think maybe certification, maybe being in Germany or having the relevant work permit, I think this is also required in some of the job descriptions. I have personally seen that in the job post, it is mentioned that people who are eligible to work in Germany, only they should be applied and will be shortlisted. So if you are applying from your home country, I think it doesn't make any sense, because it's clearly mentioned by the employer that people who are based out in Germany or who have already the work permit, only, or those who are eligible to work in Germany, they should submit their application. So I think it's really important to go through the job description and to take a very informed decision rather than just clicking and sending the job application. Let's move on to our next part, which is the networking and socializing in Germany. Do German people, they like to socialize, and how we can expand our network if we are in Germany? How can we make, let's say, friends in Germany if we don't have German friends?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good point, right? I would think making friends is a big part of actually being able to, be happy here and integrate, not just to find a job, right? So you need people around. I think, yes, of course, Germans do socialize, but I've heard very often that we are perceived as a bit, kind of close-minded, not that open to foreigners and so on. So I've heard this quite often. I think in many cases it's just a language barrier. But if you live in Germany, I think the easiest way to get to know people is to join a club or an association, which does not have to be connected to your job. But I mean, if you studied in Germany, I think you must have experienced that. We have a club for everything: soccer, book reading, dancing, singing. I don't know. That's the best way to get to know.
In my university. I still remember.
Yeah. So that's, I think, especially when you're studying here, it's very easy to join these clubs. And I mean, we do have clubs focusing on certain professional domains as well. But sometimes it's also just easier if you're into a certain kind of sports to join a sports club, right? Because you will probably want to work out anyways, and it's a good way to make friends. And that's often how you also end up finding jobs, because a lot of the jobs, I think, almost 25% of the jobs are found through personal referrals or employee referrals, and not just through job ads. And I think that's something which you really have to keep in mind. So people like to socialize over here, and an easy way to socialize is sports, doing workouts, kind of hobby you have. The other part would be joining conferences, especially if you're not based in Germany. I think that's something I already pointed out. The best approach is always to go through, the kind of field you're in, the technical expertise you bring in. Right. People like to discuss content. You have to bring in content. So that's what will create attention. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think also a good way to socialize with the German people is to speak German.
Yes.
At least I think they love when foreigners, they speak German language. I think they really appreciate it. They come more closer and they become friends much faster, I would say, because this personally, I have experienced this. So while I was studying, I didn't speak even a single word of German language. But then when I started working and picking words, of course, I took the German language course. Then I really saw the big difference in my network when it comes to speaking the language wherever you are. If you're moving to Spain, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, if you speak the local regional language, I think it really makes a big difference in expanding your network. All right, let's move on to our last part. And after that, we're going to take your questions. The last is about the work culture and practices in Germany. Just few insights from your side. What does a day look like in Germany? A work day, some common practices that the foreigners, they should be aware of. For example, as we talked, the Germans are very, very punctual. So if you are given time to come to office at 8 a.m., that means like you should be there at 7:55 a.m., not even 8 a.m., 5 minutes before. So about the culture and work practices in Germany in general.
Yeah, I think you already pointed out one important factor. So being on time is very relevant. And then in terms of work culture, what I realized when I was working abroad is that here we really have a kind of work culture which focuses on accountability. So being independent, deciding on, how you prioritize things, being very proactive. So very often in a work kind of setting here, you will not get a very, detailed list telling you this is what you have to do, and that's when you have to be done, and that's the person you have to report to, and that's the format. Probably you will just be given a task and then nothing else. And then people expect you, to ask questions, to walk up to people, to, really drive the project. And that's, I think, a very big difference. Like, for instance, when I was working in India, I realized that there tend to be, more detailed kind of hierarchies, so bigger hierarchy levels, a bigger number of, people you have to report to, and so on. And that's often then you have a very pre-structured schedule. It's not the case everywhere, I know, but compared to Germany, I realized that here they expect you to structure yourself and to be very proactive, and also to be very critical. I think we like critical feedback over here. It can be a bit of a challenge. So you may end up in a situation where your boss will ask you, so what do you think about the presentation? Do you like it, or is there anything I should change? And then he will probably expect you to say, you should improve here and you should improve there, and not just to say, this looks great. It's just a bit of a different kind of setup. Then also, I think what's important to be aware of is that this also means a lot of freedom, but it also means that you can develop based on your performance, because we have less standardized career ways we follow, career path we follow, especially if you're not working in a corporate setup. If you're working in a smaller company, it's often performance-based and not based on your seniority, for instance, which I've seen in a lot of other countries. So being independent, being very proactive, so many other things.
I think it's a good keyword to enter in your resume or somewhere in your cover letter, that I'm a critical thinker, or I think creative, and I do the critical analysis, or also it shows your personal interest. So you rightly said that if your boss has asked you something, what's your input on this, or any feedback? So don't just get away with it just by saying, feedback. I think there is a freedom, which is also good, that you can share your thought, your opinion, and it also tells that you have the brain to think. You also can add value to the company. So I think this is great. All right. So please.
By the way, same in the interview, by the way, right? In the end, they will always ask you, do you have questions? And you should ask questions.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the questions, maybe 15 minutes. Would that be okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, let's move on to 15 minutes. We'll take your questions shortly. Of course, we're going to take those questions which are relevant to this live broadcast. If you're asking questions regarding visas and visa requirements or anything like this maybe is not a part for this live broadcast for now, but we're going to stick more towards the questions which are relevant and which can actually help others as well. So you can put your questions in the comments, and in the meantime, I go back to some previous questions which have been asked. Let's see. Or you can also drop your question again. Cost of living for one person, and how much should be the minimum salary for a family member of 3? Just maybe an average.
It really depends a bit on the city. So if you live in Berlin, I think you can survive on a much lower income than in Munich. So in Munich, you will probably need minimum 1,500 euros or 1,200 euros to survive. And in Berlin, you can, survive with a bit less. If you have a family of 3 members, you need more, definitely. So I would say you need minimum 2,600, 800. The more, the better. But what you have to keep in mind is that this is net salary. So use a salary calculator, just Google it, or we can probably share a link, because you will face a lot of tax deduction and social security contributions. And here you negotiate gross salary. But in the end, you have to calculate your net salary to make sure that you have enough money. Yeah.
Okay. The next is if someone doesn't have a German language certificate, but they can speak fluent German language just by picking the words, or how do you call it in German? Straßendeutsch, like the street language. So would that be effective for getting the jobs, or still? But I think it's a great plus if you can speak. So go ahead and take a certificate, like it's stamped, it's official. So what do you suggest in this?
Yeah, I mean, if you hold a certificate, that's better. But I mean, if you are really fluent at speaking German, the easiest way is to come up with a German application, right? Because that's what matters. That's the first impression you give. So if you can communicate in German, hand in a German application, that's the best way to do it. The thing here that you have to keep in mind is that you may need a certificate anyways later on to get your visa. So it depends on the visa you apply for, but some consulates will require you to hand in a certificate for a certain kind of visa, right? Okay. So I would try and get a certificate if you already speak German.
Okay, great. Let's see more questions. We have nearly 900 comments.
Wow. That's a lot.
900 comments. Guys, please leave your questions. I'm sorry I can't go up. So if you have already asked a question, can you please type again? And I take it. Andrea is saying a nice conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to hear that.
Okay, what about, for example, Claret is asking, could you please check the German market for HR industry? Jobs for recruiters in talent acquisitions, are there jobs for these professions?
Yeah. Well, it's sometimes a bit challenging for internationals because if you're recruiting for the local market, they may want you to have local knowledge. But if you have a great international network, for instance, if you've already worked in HR, and if you bring in this kind of asset, for instance, if you bring in a really great global network of skilled IT people, I think they would be happy to hire you. So it depends a bit on your skill set. But if you are targeting administrative roles, for instance, in HR, I know it can be a bit challenging sometimes. Okay. So it's helpful if you have international experience. Yeah.
Great. If someone is 40 plus of age, will there be an issue to find a job?
It depends a bit on your skills. I think if you're 40 plus, sometimes or very often I see that people are targeting at management positions because they are very senior. You probably have a lot of experience, and you may have to step back a bit when you apply in Germany, because moving to a different country means moving to a different culture, means if you lead people, if you're in a management position, they will probably want to make sure that you're able to do so. So that may be a bit of a challenge. And then there are some visa restrictions as well. I think if you are 45 plus, you have to have a higher income to be able to get a work visa.
Okay.
Just find that out. Yeah.
Right. Claire is saying, thanks for addressing my question. Guys, we still have 9 minutes. Please put your questions below, and please ask relevant questions so that we can take, and the relevant questions can help others as well. So all those who are asking about, for example, is German language required as a fresher? I have 2 to 3 years of experience. Is German language required for me or not? So German language is, just think it's mandatory. You have to take the course, at least start learning German language now, so you can better grab the prospects.
Yeah.
Ifat is asking, how do Germans take education or professional gap? If you have 3 to 4 years of gap, would that affect, and how we can handle that maybe?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. Thank you for that. So I think here it's all about being able to deliver an explanation. So if you have a very good explanation for this gap in your CV, it's okay. I think we are not that strict about these kind of gaps as compared to other markets from what I've seen. So if you have a long gap in your CV, there is probably an explanation for it. So for instance, if if a nice reason, if you had a baby and took some time off because you had maternity leave, if you had to take care of a sick relative member, or if you were sick, if you had to take time off for health because of health issues, that's completely fine with employers over here. I think in that case, it's good to have a kind of explanation in your CV mentioning why you took time off, and what they really want to see is that you made use of this time and maybe, invested a bit in doing some personal development, staying up to date, and so on. So it's all about delivering an explanation for that. I've also done a video on that, so check out the YouTube video, full explanation on that.
Great. Just really quick on, would you please elaborate about post-COVID-19 opportunities in Germany? So how do you see the market, and maybe would there be more opportunities?
Yeah. So I think, yes, there are a lot of opportunities post-COVID as well, especially in sectors which are profiting from the situation, from the whole lockdown as well, right? So I think that's the same everywhere in the world. So if you're looking at industries like logistics, pharma, e-commerce, education, digital healthcare, all this kind of stuff. These are sectors which are really benefiting right now, and which are also growing in Germany. And we have a high need to digitize, to become more digital. So take a look at these sectors. And I think there will be a lot of opportunities coming up.
Okay. Let's take a few more questions. Smita is asking possibility of getting a job from India for SAP consultant with 6 years of experience with A2 German language skill.
So for SAP consultants, it depends a bit on the version you have worked with. So make sure that you compare standards. For instance, I've seen that when you compare it to India, very often German companies are working with a different version. Like, for instance, they are looking for SAP HANA consultants, so in high demand in a lot of cases. So just make sure that, we have the same kind of tool we are using. That's what you may want to check out. But there are a lot of opportunities in this domain. But it's more of a traditional domain, so you may want to learn more German. That'll help you.
Yeah. Okay. Next we have from Hisham. Oh, a German. He's saying, ich habe sehr viel für mich profitiert, aber bitte meine Frage beantworten. So that we have more than 950 comments. So if you can Kassewitte nochmal deine Frage schreiben.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can answer that. So please go ahead and write your question again. He was asking to please answer his question, but there are so many comments and it's really getting harder and harder to see. We also have Christoph who has left a comment. So this is the website, by the way, where you can go. It's mitra-germany.com, where you can find all those blogs, a list of job portals, and some other helpful events. In the event section, you will find the events which are happening online, which you can take part in. And also you can find the YouTube channel after you go on this website, mitra.com. Please feel free to take a screenshot right now so you can save this website name with you. And on the website, you will see the social handles, and then you can follow the YouTube channel of Mitra page. And Dr. Christoph is the co-founder of Mitra platform as well. Right. Is that right?
Okay. Happy to see that he's also watching us.
Great. Okay, so we have 4 minutes more to go. Really quick, I really want to take the relevant question. Please, guys, ask the relevant questions. Okay, Mohit is asking, my German language level is A2.1. Should I write my cover letter in German?
Yeah, A2 is probably still a bit challenging. I think in that case, you may want to stick with an English cover letter, and then probably once you've achieved B1, you can try writing a cover letter in German. But it depends a bit on you personally. I mean, if you are, really, if you really feel comfortable already, then you could also try coming up with a cover letter. But from my experience, usually people move to this stage when they've reached B1. Depends a bit on you.
Okay. Ahmed is saying, I am an international student in Germany. I am doing my master's thesis in the field of artificial intelligence, and he's about to finish. I would like to ask if it is already the best time to start applying for a job. I currently don't speak German language. So is it a good time for him to start looking for opportunities, or he should rather wait when things are more normal? And because also, for example, if he gets the opportunity right now maybe with a smaller company or maybe with a startup company, and maybe in the first quarter, the German market is more open, the big brands, the big companies, they are hiring, and so he might lose that opportunity as well. So what do you advise? Is it a good time for him to look for opportunities? And in case any job is offered, so should he go for it?
I would definitely recommend him to start applying for jobs right now, even though there may be less opportunities. But I mean, if you're in the field of AI, that's something which where we have a really high need. So I would start applying for jobs right now, especially because I often see people studying here, and then they study and then they only start looking into jobs at the end of their studies. But looking for jobs here takes time, because you may also want to have a choice, right? You don't want to just have to take up the first job you get. Where you get a job offer, you may want to have some choice. So I would recommend you to start looking for jobs and see what you get, because I think in the field of AI, there will be a lot of options.
Yes. Yeah. And a very relevant question, especially for all those who are based out in their home countries. So thank you for asking this question. How to verify the job offer received from a source or from a genuine source? So if someone who is applying for different job opportunities from their home countries, how they can verify that like this is a legit job, it's an authentic job offer? Because sometimes we see spams coming to our emails. Okay, in US your salary is like $250,000 a year. I do receive such emails. So what do you suggest the best way to screen a job offer, even though you have not applied for a job, but maybe because your profile is public, your LinkedIn profile is public, and any spammer, they can look onto your profile, they can take out your details and say like, okay, we have been impressed with your experience. You're based out in this country right now, and you speak 3 languages. So we'd like to offer you this job. And so about the scams, any thoughts?
Interesting to hear that this is happening. I think, first of all, I would always Google the name of the company, right, and see, because here we have something called Handelsregister. So it's the central registry where every company has to be registered. If you Google Mitra, you will also find details about our company. We even have a company ID. So every company here has to be registered. So that's how you can avoid spams. And then on top of that, the other part would be if a recruiter approaches you, they may sometimes not tell you the name of the company right away. But if a recruiter hires you or, does matchmaking with a company over here, this person is never going to ask for money from the candidate. So, for instance, when we do matchmaking with companies, the company is paying for that. They will never ask, or we would never ask a candidate to pay for this. And that's, I think, the most relevant factor where you realize it's a spam. Never pay to be hired in Germany. Don't do this. Because that's not, we just don't do this. Recruiters here are paid by the companies. We don't have this kind of system where you pay an agent to get a job or something like this. That's not happening over here. So never pay for this.
I think this maybe will be the last question. I don't know. Inaya, you're asking about university IGCSE. If you can put your question, maybe I can take it. But I really cannot understand this. So if you can write the whole question. And in the meantime, the last question, which I thought to take is this. I have heard about the job seeker visa. which Germany is providing, allowing you to live there for 6 months and you can hunt for a job. Have you more details about this visa? Is like maybe how we can take, let's say, advantage of this visa, the best way to utilize our time within 6 months. So what would be your top 2 or 3 tips to get the opportunity within 6 months? I hope the person who is getting the visa, they should speak German language at least.
So first of all, to get a German job seeker visa, if you don't hold an academic degree, you need minimum B1 German language skills or proof of German language. If you hold an academic degree that is recognized in Germany, you don't need this proof. Maybe A1 or A2 will be sufficient, but I would still recommend you to learn German first, because I think coming here on a job seeker visa is a high investment. You also have to prove that you have sufficient financial resources to cover cost of living for the amount of time you'll be here. So I think when you come here for 6 months, it'll cost you almost 6,000 euros. It's a bit less per month. And you will have to put this money into a blocked account or give a kind of proof of the fact that you have this kind of money. So if you if you are thinking about a job seeker visa right now, I would recommend you to start applying for jobs abroad. Don't go for a job seeker visa right away. Start applying for jobs, and if you get very good, feedback from employers over here, but get the kind of feedback that we would like to hire you, but only if you were already in Germany. And if you get this feedback very often, then it probably makes sense to come here. But only if you already had sufficient positive feedback in your application processes, because the job seeker visa is a high investment. And right now, consulates, at least in India, I don't know what it's like in other countries, are not issuing job seeker visas. So they have stopped everything. So right now there's no choice anyways.
Just last question, and really quick. I know we are beyond 1 hour. Can you please discuss the hiring process for non-European citizens? Do you have any thoughts on it? Or let's say normal hiring process, what does it look like?
It's a kind of complex process. So usually, you will go through screening, right? You may have several rounds of interviews. That's the same for being EU or non-EU citizen. Then you negotiate your salary, and then when you enter the visa process, it matters that you are a non-EU citizen, right? So you have to make sure that your degree is recognized in Germany if you're targeting an academic profession. Also for other, if you don't have an academic degree but another kind of qualification, you have to make sure that it's recognized. And there are teams like in India, for instance, there's it's a project called Pro Recognition. They are also based in several other countries, and they are doing this kind of recognition service or support for free. So you have to make sure that your degree is recognized, and then only you start the visa process. And I think there are different ways. You can get a blue card or a work visa to enter the German market. But here the process really depends on the kind of visa you are going to apply for. But getting this recognition done is something you can do even without having a job offer. So I would recommend you to do this, even before you have a job offer. So that I think this kind of consultation is free of charge anyway. So I would recommend you to get this done. I think we cannot really deep dive into this right now because it's a complex visa process.
This is fine. Just from my last side, Inaya is asking requirement for university students. Inaya, you need to go to www.daad.com, and then you can filter the universities there, and each university has its own requirements. So you really need to go to this website, which is daad.com, daad.com, and then you can find more information about the universities, about the requirements, about the cost, about the program outline, the courses, the job prospects after taking that course. So it's really helpful. daad.com, so you can go ahead and take a look at it. So Jana, thank you very much for your time, wealth of information. I hope our viewers, they have truly enjoyed today's live broadcast, as we have seen like a lot of I have joined from the beginning. I really appreciate your efforts of explaining. It is really helpful. God bless you both. Please Do share the link of this video with your network in different groups, groups you have on WhatsApp or on Facebook, so that more and more people, they can be benefited with this information, because this is a common information which most of the people, they don't have, and they are still having this kind of mindset, maybe why we're not getting a response on our application, because maybe we don't have a certain skill set. But as we discussed, the job description is really important. How you can connect, reach out to the recruiters, and how you can source more opportunities. Everything is discussed in this live broadcast capsule. So please feel free to share it with your friends, network, and connections. Last message, Jana, from your side to all the viewers, listeners who are watching us right now.
Yeah, thanks first of all. I think my message would be try to come to Germany, look at jobs over here, and if you need help, feel free to reach out to us anytime. Mitra means kind of friend, right, in Hindi, if you happen to speak Hindi. We slightly changed the name, and that's what we're aiming to be. So no matter what kind of questions you have, feel free to approach us to join our meetups. We will also be offering a lot of services that will make it easier for you to come to Germany. And yeah, wish you all the best for applying here. I would be really happy to see many, many of you moving to Germany and finding a job here. So all the best.
All the best. Thank you very much. God bless you all. And